All right, well, here we go. We'll get started. All right, the first four slides really are about what GP is doing on the education segment. And so if you can see my slides, hopefully you can. The GP commitment is $5,000 to the winning team. Here's the best part and a kicker. If you win a count, we're going to double your GP reward points once we get them in on the education account. We have pre-approved pricing quote to start, and this will be is it implemented. We can turn it into a local, and it's valid through 2027. So it's June of 2027 that it's valid to. So this will come into a local. We also have no charge dispensers approved. And then for those that need it, we have a pre-approved hanging allowance. And then of course, installation when guidelines are met. So we've got a lot going on this program that's already ready for us and kind of packaged up. So please make sure that we're getting with our sales consultants to get these things in the system, and then also to execute. So how are we going to do this? Here's what I recommend. We have a Calcium target list. So we already got to load those into Salesforce. And you'll see here in a minute, those will already get points based on the Salesforce submission. I'm also going to suggest that we do a strategy session. Each of you guys get with our sales consultant, have lunch, strategize about what you're doing, how we're doing it, and then really talk about how we can execute against that particular location. Typically, we have longevity in the market. So we either have done something, we've either submitted something, or we have something we know about that account, or if we don't know, we can find out. So it's a great chance for you guys to strategize and going forward to execute for success. We also can do logo dispensers for visualization, and we have some email templates if you want trying to get interest and trying to gain access to somebody within that education account. So again, the biggest piece of that is really a strategy session or lunch. All right, so how are we going to measure this to win? Each team will receive points. The average points per rep will determine the team winner. And how is this going to be measured? So stage 1, which is your target that goes into Salesforce, will get 10 points. Stage 2 will be a meeting or some sort of contact with that end user or education account, and you'll get 15 points for that. Stage 3 means, hey, we're getting in the proposal stage. You'll get 25 points for that. And stage 4, if we're implementing, you get 50 points for that. All targets must be in Salesforce in order for me to count those, because that's how I pull that data. So with that in mind, that's the campaign itself. I'm going to flip it over to Scott, and he's going to talk about education and everything else that goes with it. So, Mr. Scott, you're up.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Carrie. Good afternoon, Kelsan team. Thanks for having us. It's a pleasure to present to you guys as usual. So Carrie sent out a survey beforehand for you guys to take. And in the survey, she asked what were your top of mind key considerations regarding education. And this is what you came back with. Number one, by a reach, was cost. So cost and use considerations. Number 2 came out as hygiene. Number 3, and these are actually flipped here because number 3 would be productivity, because if you look at the 3 and 2 rankings there, and then image, and then lastly is sustainability. If you're looking at the sheet still, cost, hygiene, image, productivity, sustainability, these are the levers that we have, the value levers that we have to pull for your customers. And we use the acronym CHIPS because it's just really easy to remember. But the important thing to remember about this is these are the things that we can use to sell a customer and relate to a customer on their needs. I think a couple of important things to bring up here. Number one is you guys all have probably an order that you're comfortable selling in. I don't think anybody probably walks in and starts talking about sustainability, and you try to discern what your customer considers first. But rest assured, they have a hierarchy of needs when it comes to these attributes, and you guys probably have a hierarchy you're comfortable selling with. The important thing is that you learn to relate, so that you learn to sell against each of these so that you can meet the customer on their grounds and sell the value that we have available. And I'll go through these really quickly. Cost efficiency. We keep our standards high, but we're going to talk a little bit later. Sarah's going to go through some stuff, and we're going to talk about cost and use models. Nowhere in here do we talk about price. It is what a product yields and what you're paying for that product to get that service. The second attribute is hygiene. For school systems, this is vitally important because it helps reduce absenteeism, and many school systems basically get state funding based on the attendance of their students. So that becomes critically important. The other thing is, GP does a good job of producing products and dispensers that are low touch and no touch systems. And what's that do? It gives your customer high confidence and the end user high confidence in using those products, that they're going to get a hygienic experience. Productivity, we probably undersell to this. We can talk cost and use with productivity and labor. Labor was kind of the top thing coming out of COVID. First it was in COVID, it was, can you get product? And then everybody had a labor shortage, and now people are more focused on price again. But when it comes to productivity, I think we need to remember to focus that GP has phenomenal dispensers. Okay. You guys have more economical products you can sell, but where our real value lies is in our dispensers and our dispensing systems and the value they bring to your customers. So we want to be very comfortable in selling that. And that includes the 10-year warranty. It includes the one key. It includes the unified look. And all those things are vitally important. And then the last two, of course, are image and sustainability. Some school systems focus on image. And I think it's important, again, circling back to my initial comment of, you have to meet them where they are. And if image is their forte, you should find that out, or you'll find that out. And you'll be able to sell against that. And you get the consistent look and feel with one standard image throughout the restroom. And then lastly, but not least, is sustainability. And that came in last. Good old sustainability comes in last in the survey. And it's something that we don't talk about a lot, but it is important. And it is important to all the stakeholders. It's not just the facilities folks. It's the students and the parents and the communities. So sustainability should be something that you gain some comfort with and are comfortable selling against. Your ability to sell and show value to a customer probably directly correlates with your compensation. And value conversations, it's important to realize that it's not a one-time conversation. Value has to be sold and resold and talked about on a regular basis and brought on a daily basis. So as you bring value to your customers, understand that it's an ongoing proposition. So with that, I'm going to turn over to Sarah to talk about the value that our Pacific Blue Ultra 4-roll dispenser produces. Sarah.
Thank you, Scott. For the sake of time, I'm going to go through this fairly quickly, so feel free to raise your hand or ask questions in the chat if I'm moving too quickly. Most of you have probably seen this dispenser, especially if you were at the Kelsan show. I had it nice and glitterized at the meeting this past year. But this is our PBU 4-roll dispenser, and we have found that this is a really, really great fit and a great story for our education customers. And one of the reasons is because a lot of times we find that we're going up against that dual roll JRT dispenser. And one of the reasons why education customers use the dual roll JRT dispenser is because of the capacity, right? Because they have a lot of square footage to take care of with limited resources, and they want to be, and they've got a lot of students using a lot more toilet paper than they need to. So they want that capacity. So a lot of times you'll see 1,000-foot roll in the JRT. If you're selling into accounts that have a bid, you know, we've all seen the cheater rolls out there that end up being 650, 750, 950 feet on the roll. So I would encourage you, as you are going up against those systems, to make sure you know what you're going up against, because one of the cool things about the PBU 4-roll dispenser is when it's full, there are over 2,200 linear feet of paper. So while the rolls look smaller, you know, that's oftentimes, you know, one of the first little bits of pushback I get is, ooh, that's not enough paper in the dispenser. But if you actually do the math on these rolls, by the time you get 4 of them in there, there's more than even if they are using that true 1,000 foot JRT roll. So you'll see that. Another thing you'll notice is it's coreless. So when it's gone, it's gone. There's nothing to take off of the dispenser, to throw away or stuff down the toilet. It just runs out. This little wagon wheel inside of the dispenser is gravity fed. So as the bottom roll runs out, it's automatically going to switch over to the next roll. So there's nothing for, you know, if you're talking about, you know, an elementary school, there's nothing for the kids that they need to know how to do. They don't have to slide a door. They don't have to flip a lever. There's nothing for them to do. It's automatically going to advance for them so that the next roll is there ready and waiting. So we've got high capacity, very intuitive for the kids, nothing for them to do. When you can kind of see a little bit on this first picture in the top left-hand corner, there is a clear bar across the bottom of the dispenser. This is my most favorite thing to talk about with this dispenser, because what this does is completely takes away the human behavior piece, right? So when we're talking about going up against the JRT rolls specifically, how many times I always ask the customer, you know, how many times do you see the maintainer, the custodian, whatever you want to call them, take out the roll when there's an inch of toilet paper left on that roll? And you can pretty much see, you know, the heads start nodding. You know, sometimes you'll have somebody pipe up and say, oh, it's more than that. And then you ask them, how much is on that roll? And I don't know. It's a lot. It's a lot that's on that roll. If there's an inch left, that's 27% of their roll. So what this clear bar in the PBU dispenser does is, as much as they want to take that roll out because it's gotten real tiny, they can't. They cannot get to it because it blocks the roll at the bottom of the dispenser that's in use. So the only way to get it out is to not, because they can't. So it completely dispenses. That's how we can make that 0% waste claim with the PBU dispenser, because there is no human behavior component. So as we work through our other pictures here, one of the things you can't see in here is where the keyhole placement is. That is a big deal to the custodians. It doesn't seem like it would be, but they get really excited to know that we have moved this to the front of the dispenser. So as they're in the handicap stalls, with the grab bars for ADA compliance, we can actually butt this up almost to the bar, and they can still get the dispenser open very, very easily with the key, because they're not having to, you know, figure out how to, you know, get their hand up under there in between the bar and the blocking mechanism for the dispenser. Another great thing you can touch on is storage space and packaging. You know, JRT rolls are going to come in a, you know, very cumbersome corrugated box. What happens after we're done? We got to break that down. We got to carry it out to the recycle bin, or it goes, you know, like me, it goes in the stack for me to deal with another day. But with the PBU tissue, it's like our compact coreless. It comes in that poly wrap, so it's protecting it more in their storage closet if there are any leaks or, you know, any spills, anything like that. It's protecting it more. It rolls up into that little tiny wad of recyclable plastic that you see right there. That they can just toss in the bin when they're done versus having to find their knife and cut the box down and carry it out to the bin and all of that good stuff. Another thing about the rolls is when you're going up against the JRT, you'll notice that the PBU tissue is perforated. So that's automatically going to help control the usage because it's going to tear off when they want it to tear off versus the JRT rolls are not perforated. So when you're talking about, I always kind of use the example when you sit down and you go to get the tissue, does it always tear? No, then what happens? You end up pulling another 3 feet out and you end up again still with way more tissue than you need versus a perforated roll that's going to tear exactly where you want it to. It's also a lot easier for the littles to handle because those rolls aren't so big and heavy. So you don't have as much issue with the tabbing like you do on JRT. They can actually pull it. It doesn't, weigh 1,000,000 pounds for them. It's not super tight on the dispenser core. So they get what they need, what they want, and what they expect every time they're going to dispense the tissue. I think that pretty much covers kind of the top things that we want to touch on. A lot of times, I'll hear, well, especially in some of our, kindergarten wings, we've got, smaller single bathrooms, or, we've got really small stalls. This looks really big. So we've come up with a solution for that. That's really the only time I talk about this dispenser because as you can see, you kind of lose some of those benefits of the 4-roll system with the controlled usage and waste reduction and everything. But what this does is allow you to have an option to go into those smaller footprint spaces and have a 2-roll dispenser that has a smaller footprint, but keep them with 1 SKU of tissue because nobody wants to deal with having, trying to remember this roll goes here and this roll goes there. They want 1 tissue that can go on their cart and work in every part of their building. So we've got this 2-roll dispenser option, same key, same refills, still high capacity with the 1,700 sheets on a roll, still perforated, all of that good stuff. But I typically try to only, talk about this if we do have those space constraints in there. So that is that. Any questions at this point about the actual dispensers that I can answer for you? Okay. All right, moving on to the next. Carrie mentioned this earlier, but we do actually have the ability. This is our
We got
system.
Todd.
Yes.
Good
Oh, yeah.
question.
What's up, Todd?
Hey guys, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Just one question about the dispenser. So I agree that touchless dispensers are probably the cleanest. Have you all done any kind of like swab and lab analysis on on a touchless dispenser versus just a manual dispenser? I think it'd be kind of nice to have that information, like as we're approaching these schools, to just to show how much cleaner a touchless dispenser would be.
Great question, Todd. I'll have to check with Nina on that, but I'll check with our technical center and see if we've got something.
Thank you.
I will say it's something that I'm sure that they have some data. We're very conservative sometimes on publishing data. So we may have it and then, we just may not want to publish it because it depends on location, right?
Sure.
But I can absolutely check to see if we have something like that within our Nina Tech Center.
Okay, thanks.
Todd, I can tell you from personal experience. I did before I moved to Tennessee. When I was in Omaha, I did a large insurance complex, and the reason they changed to coreless tissue was because they had jumbo tissue before, and they did black light testing, like you can do on the serrated edges, and they found fecal matter on pretty much everything that they looked at, and they said that was enough to change their mind. So, that's obviously that's not vetted by legal, et cetera, but Take
I
it for what it
didn't
is. Okay.
I'm glad you
So,
said that though, Scott, because I didn't even touch on that. When you do have those jumbo roll dispensers, how many times are you, trying to figure out, is there actually toilet paper still on there? And you're reaching your hand up into no man's land, trying to catch the edge of it. And oh my gosh, I've never even thought about that. I'm
Well,
unwell.
and the biggest thing for education is attendance, right? I mean, they're still getting, funding from attendance. So as they have things going through the restroom and sickness going through the schools, if we can help prevent some of that just by changing the dispenser and the touchless, I mean, that's huge.
Yeah, absolutely. Great question, Todd.
Thanks.
I have one question I want to confirm. When the tissue dispenser is full, is it more linear feet than one jumbo roll or two jumbo rolls?
2
Okay.
more linear feet. So it's like 2,296 linear feet, I believe.
Okay.
When it's full, when our 4 rolls are in there versus, 2,000 feet maximum in a dual roll JRT dispenser.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, great question also. All right, so going back forward, so the PBU system is the kind of premier place for your end user to display their logo or brand. So we do have the ability to do that. The minimums are not insanely high, as you can see on this slide, 40 towels, 40 auto soap, 42 manual, and 100 toilet paper dispensers. So the counts for these, I do want to be clear, are per SKU. But we do have the ability to put their logo on there and really allow them to showcase their brand or their mascot or their school system or whatever they're hoping to showcase. So we can do that with our PBU line. All right, and now I believe this flips back over to Scott to talk about our cool pie chart here.
You're on mute, Scott.
here we are back at our survey again. How familiar are you with GP's cost calculator? And this comes back to cost and the CHIPS model. And advanced, some of you said you use the GP Pro sales team all the time to do the cost and use models. Somewhat advanced, 75% of you said that you use some of the time with the GP Pro sales team, and not much, used occasionally, was not registered there, but never was another 12.5%. So I'm going to encourage every one of you, and we'll slide to this next slide in a second, but our cost calculators are next level vehicles for you to get in front of a customer and show the value and put numbers to it so that it's no longer a question, and engage your customer. So it's not just numbers that we come up with, it's numbers, it opens a conversation to speak to your customer and have some back and forth about how much waste are you actually experiencing. Is it 27% like we talked about, like Sarah mentioned in the quad presentation? Is it 1 inch on the junior jumbo bath tissue? Is it more than that? Is it less than that? What are you paying? Are you paying $25 for a case of junior jumbo tissue? We're seeing a lot higher than that in the marketplace. Are you seeing lower than that? Can you give us a range? It's just a great way to open a discussion with a customer when you sit down with them and talk about true cost and use.
Scott,
Did you want to say something else about the calculator, Sarah?
I had a visual aid for you guys that I used earlier this week at a meeting with David and Tillman. And I was really excited to show you, but the customer loved it so much, they asked me if they could keep it. So I have not had a chance to recreate it, but just something that seemed so silly to me is I actually took a a jumbo roll of tissue, and I removed the toilet paper down to 1 inch to show them what that looked like. And they, it was just kind of drove home that, understanding that yes, this is happening. It's not because our custodians are trying to waste anything. They're trying to do a good job. They don't want to run out. And so, they take the roll off when it looks like this. And that really, was just a very impactful visual for them to see that, 1 inch, I'm telling you, 1 inch is 27% of your roll. That's a lot of toilet paper that's still left on this roll if you really look closely at what's on there. Another thing that we did was actually, if any of you have used our cost impact calculator, you see, kind of what we tell them they use per use, per occasion, per every time they sit down in the stall, right? So what we found is about 9.9 linear feet on average of the JRT tissue versus our 24.5 sheets of our coreless roll. So I actually took it and pulled off 9.9 feet. I measured it with my measuring tape and kind of rolled it into a nice little, wad for them, and then did the same with the 24.5 sheets of ours and rolled it in and kind of handed it to her and said, which one would you rather use? And again, it was just like, oh my gosh, I thought the VP was he got so excited and was horrified by what they were using in that 9.9. He's like, oh my gosh, this is a terrible experience. I don't want this, So, and they kept that too. But, something that seems so silly and simple like that is a way for you to kind of show them, as you're talking through these numbers, real life, what does this look like? And it catches their attention. And, at least they thought it was really impactful enough that they wanted to keep my toilet paper. So just wanted to, kind of give that little hot tip there as you're showing these products, because we all know that, when we're selling on value, so you have to talk about it, you have to show it, you have to talk through these reasons why this is valuable. You can't just tell somebody it's valuable. Why is it valuable? Why should you care? And these are some of those ways that you can, give them something visual to realize why this matters. So sorry, interrupted you, Scott.
No. What was it that Sandy said? It said, what was presentation without demonstration is just conversation.
Conversation.
So
Yeah.
presentation without demonstration is just conversation. And this is a great slide too. Carrie, if you would go back up. If you don't have these tools, they come out in these little cards. And Sarah did a great job explaining what they do. But if you'll notice on the bottom of this, there's a ruler. And what you can do is you can go in anybody's storeroom that has any kind of stub roll waste and take that ruler and measure what that stub roll waste is and say, okay, so on this specific roll, you're throwing away 269 feet or 27% of your bath tissue, or, you're throwing away 27 feet or whatever the case may be. So it's a great tool to just give a quick demonstration, and pretty much anybody who's using something that's going to create a stub roll will have stub rolls somewhere in a storage room. So next.
Right. Well, good afternoon, Kelsan team. I get to bring us home. So to Scott and Sarah's point, I was going to say, from a visualization perspective, I'm a visual person. One of the things I do is I actually will take a 9-inch roll and I will actually mark off 1, 2, 3 inches in different colors, and then hand it to the customer and say, hey, what do you think your stub roll is? And they'll point to it and they'll say, that's what I think it is. And they have no idea what a inch is, 2 inches, or 3 inches. So they really don't fathom how much they're really doing. I agree with Scott. If you have that calculator, that card with you, it's an immediate, if they have a stub roll, show it to them, because that is impactful. And that's what we're going to talk about. So this tool right here is just showing you, based upon some of the data that you provided us. You guys said that the price that you guys see out there is $25 a case landed. to the customer. And, you know, we see it too. So this is just to show you, let's say a school system is using 1,000 cases a year. It's a pack, it's a 12 pack, 12,000 linear feet. It just shows you how much tissue they're consuming, how many inches. Remember, we talked about, we know just on the stub roll feature, the stub rolls that are out there, that's a 27% factor. So we've already got that to talk about. We know there's more waste, but we're just going to go conservatively here and just stick with 27%. So you can see what your waste is on per foot, and it just breaks it out. And this is just a simple, we input in whatever the case price is, and this is where it shows that on 1,000 cases at $25, they're wasting $6,750 just on waste. So it's a strong conversation to have, because everybody thinks that jumbo tissue is labor efficient. You heard Sarah talk about the average person using 9.5 feet, 9.9 feet. It's really not as labor efficient and productive as we talk about. So this actually helps drive it home. And we just wanted to make you aware of that. We have this so that if you have somebody that wants to understand that is a number cruncher, they'll respect this, especially when you're dealing with procurement. They break everything down, but they don't understand that there's waste. And that's where our next slide will tell you. We asked you, who do you think's the biggest influencer at a school? So the answer is your facilities managers. We all know that there's many different contacts at a school, but we don't want to be working through procurement all the time, because if not, they're just going to beat you up on price and they don't understand the whole value proposition. So we have to get, the more influencers we can get, the facilities managers can help drive this home and explain to them, hey, we're using jumbo tissue, but we're wasting almost $7,000 a year. It's not labor efficient. It's not good use of our time. And then we can get into the hygiene part, the image, and then, we can also talk about the sustainability. So we get to talk about all the CHIPS models. If we can go to the next slide.
Hey, Don, before we do that, if you just go, Carrie, back to the cost calculator.
Mhm.
I think what this is also showing is that actual cost per case
Yes,
that they think
correct.
they're paying 25 for is actually 34.25 when you factor in the waste. So that's a really good conversation to have too. So they're not paying 25, they're really paying 34.25 with the waste in there.
Good call out.
Carrie, you take your your cursor real quick and highlight this. The neat thing about this is it's only 5 inputs, right? So anything in yellow, right? So you can change the cases of JRT, you can change the rolls in a case, you can change the footage, and all this will calculate out for you. You can change the cost, you can have a waste factor discussion with your customer. And when Carrie and I started talking about this, it was just about the waste. But to her credit and Sandy's point, what happens is when you back into that waste cost, you apply that to what they're paying for a case, and suddenly their $25 case turns into a $34.25 case. And that's a different conversation to have with your customer than if they think they're paying $25 for a case. That it's what's usable bath tissue in the case. And that becomes really vital in the discussion. And this is it's 2 lines, 5 inputs, and you can have this discussion not just education, you can have this discussion with anybody using jumbo bath tissue. So it's a really valuable tool.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Carrie, you're going to share this out with everybody, correct?
Correct.
So guys, this is a way, again, for anybody that has used our impact calculator in the past, or been present when we walk through one. Obviously, that is the bigger picture. There's a lot more input that goes into that. You guys don't have direct access to it. You kind of have to, bring us the information, we put it in there, and then it spits something out for you to give to your customer. This is a really great tool for you to use in front of your customer live, just to get the conversation going, to get to that total impact calculator if they want to see that. So, this may be enough if they see, wow, we're wasting all, $7,000 before we even get started with it. That may be enough for them, but this is something that you can have at your fingertips, change very, very easily with minimal information, minimal effort to go ahead and spit out a number that looks really impactful and gets their attention. So Carrie's going to share this out to everybody so you've got it. But we are still able to do that, kind of bigger picture total cost impact calculator with you to show those other, parts that play into the cost and use story that are going to show you the additional savings with labor, the additional, waste reduction from an overuse standpoint, all of that. So just know that we're going to send this out. You've got access to it. You can manipulate it without ever calling us, even though we want you to call us.
Plus, it's kind of fun to see the look on their face when you say, you guys consumed 12 million feet of tissue last year. And oh, by the way, you threw away 3,240,000 feet of tissue last year. So just an extra.
All right, if we could go to the next two slides up.
Yep.
So just want to remind you guys, GP obviously can help you. We all know, we all work with facilities. You work with the warehouse managers. Don't forget the food service. We call this like a 2-for-1. You go in, you're going to call on your Jansan customer, but then you can also call on the food service director or the director of nutrition. GP obviously has more, so just don't forget us about the plates, cups, cutlery, napkins, wipers, facial tissue, the seat covers, air care. We've got it all, just so we want to make sure that we're capturing that and getting as deep as we can into the account. So we've got the full bundle. And then finally, we're going to talk about the Pacific Blue. This is what we're finding, where we're winning in K through 12, college, university, private schools. Just remember, we have a 10-year warranty. The 1866 Hello GP numbers inside there if they ever have any questions. We talked about other resources today. You obviously have hanging allowances. I want to make sure everybody reminds you of the installation program. We've got a very easy installation program, 60 or more dispensers with 2 or more categories, or 100 of each of one category. So don't forget about that. I also just want to give a quick shout out to the Charlotte team. Leah Cochran has already secured our first win at the University of North Carolina at Charlotte. So I want to congratulate her. And she's already got 50 points, which she'll have 100 points. Signed lease got signed yesterday for InMotion. So thank you very much. With that, I'm going to hand it back over to Carrie to close it out.
Yep.
And ask questions.
We've got about 5 minutes left. I'm going to open the floor. We're done from a GP perspective. This was about you guys. We got a couple questions in today, but I don't know that we got a lot of questions. So I'm going to turn it back to you guys. We've got 5 minutes and open the floor. Does anybody have any questions on what was presented? Any questions for our team? Any questions on education? We'd love to hear from you. No crickets, please. I'll turn the music back on.
Also, if anybody has had a great experience where you've sold this into a school system that you want to share with your peers on, what you think made the customer want to switch over to this, and kind of what the feedback has been since they've done so. If you have any success stories you want to share, we're open for that too.
Yeah, I got a couple of things to add. I just want to reiterate what Carrie said at the beginning. GP has put together a standalone contract specifically for this campaign for us. So the DSMs will have a copy of it. So please reach out to them or myself when we're working on the school system, so we can go equipped and have all the tools walking into the school when needed. The second thing, I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of reps about trying to sell GP or anyone else into the school system. And we've had challenges with that because we are fighting against Universal. Naturally, we do sell a lot of Universal, but I can give you a success story. As Sarah had mentioned, we put GP in Gaston County Schools approximately 8 years ago. And when you put it in versus Universal, it's much more sticky. It's going to stay in the system. We're going to keep the business, where Universal, we're having to quote it every year just to keep the business. So just keep that in mind. If we get the opportunity to get it in there, we need to put it on the wall.
Didn't we just renew that too, Andy?
Yeah,
I mean, we
yeah.
just renewed it for another 3-year term. Is that correct?
Correct.
So, I mean, we've had it in there 8 years. We just renewed it for another 3-year term. And it's the original soft pull mechanical. So, talk about things that have, that one is actually really old and needs an upgrade in the system. But, once it's in there on the mechanical side of things, they like the perf. It works. It's across the entire county. And we haven't really had much issues on that particular grouping, and I don't, like you said, in that many years. So, and we do find that too in our success with us in education as well. Go ahead, Scott.
No, I was just going to circle back to the 10-year warranty and the fact that, when it comes to productivity and sustainability that are, part of the CHIPS model, our dispensing systems are really exceptional, and they're durable and they last well. And we've used them in a lot of different, not just school system, but we use them in industrial and high traffic. I mean, they really weather well. And I think it's important when you talk to your customers that they understand that, we're making an investment in their wall, and in doing so, we're giving them a long-term solution so that they don't have to be, to Andy's point, you don't have to bid it out every year. You don't have to go back to the drawing board every time you turn around, and you can focus on more important things that bring value, to the students and the teachers and the parents and the community. And you don't do that when you use universal product, and you got to change dispensers, and you got to pay for dispensers, you got to change them out, and then you got to chase somebody down to take care of them. At Don's point, we got a 1-866 hello GP number in there. It's really built to be super simple and seamless to the customer. And I think in selling the system, it's important to talk about the dispensers as much as it is to talk about the product and the cost and use and everything else. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Andy, for bringing that up. I really appreciate it. Anybody else have anything else? Oh, I saw a couple of people come off mute. Yay.
I have a question about installs, and I know different installers or manufacturers may have their own rules and whatnot. Can you confirm whether or not GP allows their installers to install dispensers in classrooms? Because a lot of these schools do have towel dispensers and soap dispensers in their classrooms, and I've been kind of hearing different rules and whatnot depending on the installers and stuff.
Does any one of our sellers want to take it? Sandy, you got this?
Yeah, I can take it. So typically, what we've practiced in the past is in classrooms, you don't get as much throughput in the towel dispensers, but what we will hang in the classrooms are the soft pull, center pull. And normally it's the smaller one that goes in there, just because it's usually it's kind of a cramped area. And soap dispensers, it's no problem. The towel dispensers, we usually would do something with like the soft pull, center pull, and we would install those at no charge and provide the dispensers at no charge as well for the classrooms, or where it's a smaller area that's not going to get as much traffic.
We would install it. It comes down to dispenser and payback cost. I mean,
Yeah.
So if you think about the dispenser that's in the classroom, you probably don't even go through a single case of paper throughout that dispenser. And so by the time we get the dispenser at no charge, we get somebody in there to hang it even on a per unit basis, we won't see any payback for the next 5 years. So that's really what it comes down to. And that's why we asked to change dispensers. It's not about installing it into the classroom. It's about which dispenser do we install in the classroom.
Okay, so if a school system chooses PBU, we're telling them that we can't install the PBU in the classrooms, or
No, it's every deal is different. It's gonna depend. We just need to sit down and work through the details first. And then what we do is we go back to the end user and say, okay, where's it going? You know, like for instance, if this is in a science room that has sinks and they're gonna be constantly doing things, we probably would put a PBU in that science room. But if it's in a janitorial closet that just happened to have a sink in a K through 12 back, area, we may just say, look, you're not going to use any paper in here very often. And so let's just put a simpler design of a dispenser in this particular location that's just a center pull, because you really don't need a mechanical dispenser in that particular location. That's what it
Yeah,
comes to.
Okay.
And I would just add, if the more you could bundle with GP, make it easier for us. Because again, if you bring in a different
Yeah.
manufacturer for soap and a different one for towel and one for tissue, the better selling story we have, the better chance we can go to our finance team and get
It
that
changes the
approved.
P&L
It
quite a bit.
changes the whole P&L. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's all about the
So-
return and how
It
quickly we
is.
can return back on it.
It is.
Real quick, do you
Thank
want to
you.
mention the bundle package?
You mean for, Andy, hold on. What do you mean by that?
As far as if we sell soap, tissue,
Mhm.
and towel, is that
Yes.
count towards
You-
schools?
Yeah, you'll get double reward points for that particular placement. So that's the biggest one, is the double reward points. You're going to get double reward. So you got a kicker on that, on the bundle placements.
I think also we're still, sorry for interjecting, I think maybe this is what Andy's referring to, but also if you sell towel,
5%.
tissue and soap, like if you sell soap along with our towels, we'll look at up to 5% less on the cost that we're giving you right now on the towels.
That's
So
right.
if you're selling tissue too, we'll look at up to 5% reduction on the original call. The pricing quote that you see here, we'll look at up to 5% less if you sell the entire bundle.
That's what, yep. Sorry, Andy, I missed that point.
Yep,
But yes,
thank you.
the bundle saver. Perfect. Anybody else? Well, we're about 4 minutes over, so being cognizant of time, we're going to go ahead and wrap up. I really appreciate you guys jumping on. Hopefully this will be helpful. Looking forward to some phone calls for our team so you guys can do a lunch and a strategy session. And let's go get some education accounts. And congratulations to Leah for the very first close, right as we're kicking this off from a GP perspective. So thank you guys. Appreciate it, and appreciate your time today.
Thanks, team. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, y'all.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.